When AI becomes the next pop star, who gets the spotlight? The artist or the algorithm? You might have caught recent headlines about so-called AI artists, or artists that heavily rely on AI tools like image, voice, or music models to make their songs. There's one artist, Zania Monet, for example, who recently signed a record deal and is climbing the gospel charts and is playing on radio stations across the country. Meanwhile, last week, a bunch of songs in the top 10 on the country sales chart were also songs that stem from this kind of AI artist. At a time when AI-generated songs seem to be exploding, cropping up everywhere, from TikTok trends to the Billboard charts, it felt like the perfect time to dive into how this will impact artists and what can be done to protect human creativity in the process. And I couldn't dream of a better guest to join me here today to discuss this topic than Imogen Heap. Welcome back to On the Record, a music business podcast from Billboard and Sickbird Productions. As always, I'm your host, Kristin Robinson, and I'm thrilled to have Imogen Heap on the show today to talk about the rise of generative AI and how it will impact artists. Imogen is a multi-Grammy-winning singer, songwriter, producer, engineer, and technologist who has been making music for over 2 decades now, and it's clear that she still is somehow a few steps ahead of the rest of us. We will unpack this growing AI phenomenon and what these tools mean for the future of creativity. As Imogen herself recently put it, the genie can't go back in the bottle. And after years of research and development, she's finding ways to use AI ethically within her own artistic practice. There are really few artists that understand the intersection of music and technology quite like Imogen. Her latest singles, I Am and Afterlife, for example, both use her regular singing voice and this AI voice model, which is trained on hundreds of hours of her own singing, which she calls AI Mojin. She's also been hard at work developing oracles, a system designed to help artists manage their IP in an age of AI where deepfakes and training models on music without permission is very commonplace. We'll also touch on the 20th anniversary of Imogen's influential album, Speak for Yourself, which she released at another time of great change in the music biz. Back then, CD sales were down, MP3s were taking over, and almost no one was having an easy go of it. But still, Imogen managed to release the project independently and to great success. Today, the album is considered a modern pop classic, and ever since, she's gone on to serve as an inspiration for music's biggest stars, including Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, Olivia Rodrigo, Pink Panthers, and yes, even Jason Derulo, in the years since Speak for Yourself's release. All this to say, I am very, very excited for our conversation today. So let's go ahead and bring her in. Imogen Heap, thank you so much for coming to On the Record. I'm so happy that you're here virtually from London.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Where did you just fly in from? You were just on a plane like 2 hours ago.
I was coming from Lisbon, a lovely city. It was actually torrential rain. I didn't know if I was going to get back here because the thunder and lightning last night was so incredible. I thought that there was somebody like going over my hotel room with a massive car or a big train or something, but it just turned out to be thunder. So yeah, we made it, but we were stuck on the runway forever, which is why I'm late.
There's nothing worse than trying to get back quickly from the airport, so I really appreciate you still being able to make it. I'm really excited to chat because I think that you are one of the artists that really just has been keeping your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the world of like cutting edge technology, generative AI, all that stuff. And so that's one of the things that I report on at Billboard. It's become a huge focus for me over time. So before we get into that kind of a chat, I wanted to kind of throw it back to the beginning of your career when you're getting started. What were some of the technological tools in your studio back in the day that really inspired you?
Well, I didn't have a studio in the beginning because it was very expensive to have a studio. But I did have a keyboard. I had an Sonic TS12, which I still love. And I did have access to computers. So when I was 12, I started learning on an old Atari, and they had some software on there at school that nobody knew how to use, and it was in like this cupboard. It's basically like the naughty cupboard. But I realized later in life that the music teacher was just kind of being nice to me. He was going, just get in that cupboard, but he knew that I just wanted to like make music on the computer. So that's when I started realizing that, oh wow, there's something in this computer thing that's like helping me be more than I can with just writing it down on a bit of paper and hoping that an orchestra might play it one day, which they never would. Well, they did eventually. So yeah, it was like computers, and then when I was 15, I went to the Brit School. I was a second year in, it's like this school in the UK, which lots of musicians go to because it's one of the only schools like it. And that's when I learned to use Cubase. So I did know my way around the studio, but I didn't have that much equipment. I had a QI70, but that was a bit later. That was like when I was 21, so I could make little beats on that.
Do you think that like technology has always inspired you to start writing, or what do you think usually kickstarts the songwriting process for you?
It really is more about time. Like, what am I doing? Any musical instrument anywhere, or if there's any time where it's like, oh, actually, I could be doing music now, then it really doesn't matter where I am. I can make music out of anything. I think it is really about just feeling calm and excited and like there's not a lot on your back right now. And that the sense that you actually might have time to finish something or even just manage to do a verse, or even if you did capture something. I'll have to spot this fun little, it's called the Drone Machine, and it's made by Stylophone. And I love it. And I spent 4 hours just like noodling around on it on the plane the other day, but I didn't have a way to record it into my iPhone. And I didn't bring my laptop. So yeah, there's just, it's right now it involves lots of steps to just kind of clear the area to enable me to just actually put something down. But most of the time it's a notepad. I just write all the time in my little notepads or in my notes. It's when I was younger, it was a piano. It was a piano or it was a cassette player, and I would just come up with something. But now life is different, very hectic. There's so much stuff going on. There's little piece, so it's just little scraps of things really here and there, and like this little stylophone thing's really cool.
Interesting. So I want to get to AI Mojin, oracles, and the Mi.Mu gloves. But before I get there, I am very curious, like, when was the first time that you realized that generative AI was going to be very impactful in music?
I don't know. I think it like weirdly crept up on me. The first time I did any generative anything was with a human called Rob Thomas. And this was about 15, 17 years ago. And he wrote code for apps, and there was this brilliant app basically would take the world around you and it would synthesize it in harmony. So if you're on the train, it would kind of have resonant frequencies of everything, and then it would just sound all in time and in tune. RJDJ, that's what it's called. And there was all these different scenes and they were really great. Anyway, I loved it so much I reached out to him and was like, can I speak to somebody there? And then he came around and we did this experiment where he would personally analyze the way that I improvised, and then he created a little program so they could generate music in the style of the way that I played piano. So he was just like mentally creating a little algorithm as a human, as kind of apportioning, kind of appropriating what he thought was me. And it just kind of occurred to me, wow, that'd be so useful to be able to just like start improvising and then the piano continues on without me. And then I can kind of jam kind of with myself, but like a one step removed, but it's still kind of me. And so I was really inspired by that. And that started a song called Runtime, because we were going to make a running app out of it that would like work to the rhythm of your running and everything. I think that's a total thing now. But we wanted to explore with that. So it was about 17 years ago. But I suppose the way that I feel now it's impacting is just everybody's terrified. That's not true. Not everyone's terrified. I'm not terrified. I'm just aware that not just even music, everything is being turned upside down, and it's not all a loss. There are many things that we can do to mitigate it and to set the standard to make things better for us in the future by getting things right now. And I'm excited about the progression. I do see it as a kind of evolution of us as people. And I'm excited with all the possibilities that could happen. I could go on and talk about that for about 4 hours. But I felt like only really everywhere else, I felt the big change in the last 2 years, really. But I've been doing like AI judging of AI music competitions for about, I don't know, I've been asked to do that like 3 or 4 times over the last 10 years. And there was a sudden like jerk basically of like, oh, wow, this sounds completely amazing compared to what it did then. And, that is incredible, the shift that really happened over, a year, basically.
I feel like for me, when I noticed a huge shift was I started reporting on AI music, and it was just like they could generate kind of a shitty but passable, instrumental. But then when Suno came out and you could really generate everything at the click of a button, and it sounded pretty convincing, and increasingly it's gotten even more and more convincing, that's when I really felt like, oh, wow, it's suddenly here. It felt like just a moment when things really did shift. And it's interesting that we're talking this week because it feels like right now a lot of these so-called like AI artists, which I don't know how I feel about that term, but there's a lot of people who are using AI tools very heavily in their creative process that are now actually seeing some level of success from it. Because I think at first it was maybe a creative experimentation, but they weren't rising up the charts, or they weren't trending on TikTok or getting a lot of streams. But now we're starting to see that with like Zania Monet. She has made a lot of headlines recently. I'm wondering for you, as these kind of heavily AI generated projects start entering the marketplace alongside human made works, do you think that these things should be treated similarly in terms of what royalties they make, what opportunities they have? Or do you think there needs to be some distinction between AI works and human made works?
And all the grey in between. Yeah.
Yeah, and then all the grey in between.
Yeah, for sure. No, I do think we need to have a way to identify in some form, however little or granulated that can be right now. But we definitely need to build the layer that allows the humans to show their input and to be verified by other humans as that is that person's work. And because, I trust this person who trusts this person. And that's what we're doing, which we might talk about later with oracles. Mm-hmm. It's just a place for a human to say, this is me, these are my works, these are the people that I work with, this is all the contextual information around this piece of music and how I made it and the instruments and whatever it is, whatever people want to find out, and creating this wealth of information that the future and now industry can build on. So until that happens, we are still kind of floating around in midair because we don't even have the bedrock of understanding, even right now, as we're still in this kind of traditional music making way, of identifying human work even now. And that's one of the main problems.
Yeah, that's something that I've been encountering in my own reporting is people will come to me and they'll say, hey, this song is AI generated. And I'm like, I don't know for sure that it is AI generated or if it is fully human made. And I think AI detection tools still have a long way to go. And I'm really, really hopeful that there's some strides made in that, because right now it's one of those, it's almost like a guessing game, and you'd hate to accuse someone of using AI or say an AI work is human and have that be completely wrong. But like you were saying before, there's like such a gray area in the middle. When we talk about or we see headlines about AI songs or AI artists, this can be anything from something that is fully generated just using a prompt and then the human steps back, or it could be something where it's mostly human made, but there's just an AI vocal that's incorporated.
Kristin, actually, I just want to butt in because you said then about mistaking human music for AI music. And actually, embarrassingly, I did that the other day and I felt really bad about it. So I discovered this artist when I was listening to a playlist. And I discovered this playlist because of my new favourite artist called Blauen, which I know I'm a bit late in the day, but I just loved this record that he's done. So it recommended, go listen to this other stuff. So I found this long playlist and I listened to loads of stuff. And I thought, I quite like, made a load of notes on this plane journey. But one of them was that this artist called Data Cluster. And I was like, wow, this really sounds like Max Cooper and John Hopkins. Like it really, really does. Like I was really suspicious. And I looked up on this, on the biography about this person, and it just said music made with errors or something like that. And I was like, this is very suspicious. And then I looked this person up, and I did actually find a person behind it. But I was like, but that could be a ruse. It might not be real. Anyway, I found their Instagram page, and then I followed them. And this person was like, oh my God, Imogen Heap, is this real? Are you real? I love your music, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, are you real?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, both of you are...
Because I just said, this record that you've done, I absolutely love it. Like, I'm really, really enjoying it. But I can't help feeling how similar it is sometimes to Max Cooper and my friend John. And he was like, oh, thanks so much. Those are my biggest heroes. That's like the best thing you could have ever said to me. And I was like, no, and I don't take this the wrong way, but did you create a model that kind of, mashes them up together and then generates them and kind of did stuff over the top. He was like, absolutely no way. I can show you the stems. I can do this. And fair enough. He got like, a bit offended. But it has got to that point where we can recreate things and honor people, and we do all the time, sometimes without knowing it. We go, oh, I've come up with this idea, and actually it was something that somebody else did, but you just forgot about it and you thought it was an original idea. And it happens all the time. So I'm quite, we definitely are at that place where it's very confusing right now, and we do need some clarity. But we can do it. There are tools and everybody wants it. So I feel like the silver lining really of this dark cloud, as some might see it, as AI music taking over, is that we are going to get the data layer of works. We're going to get this complete data layer of works, because people will want to prove not only that they're human, but they want to actually just say, I'm human. And these are all of my works that I actually contributed to, even if I'm a mixing engineer or whatever it is. So I feel like, this panic in, how are we gonna know what's what, is also going to empower us to just do what we've needed to do for like 100 years.
I recently spoke to someone at Hollywood Media, which is signing AI artists. They've signed this Xenia Monet artist, which has gone pretty viral in recent weeks. And one of the things that they said is, because Xenia is backed by a real person who essentially writes poetry and then uses Suno to help complete that poetry into a song, they have her record herself making her music, so that if anyone ever has questions about it, they can actually show, like, here's exactly what she did, here's exactly what AI did. I could kind of see that being something that becomes a thing in the coming years, of just trying to create a log of, here's what I did, here's what AI did, as that increasingly becomes part of the creative process. But I do want to go back to that point about Hollywood signing AI artists. They're the first label that has been pretty public about doing this. I'm wondering, in the coming few years, do you anticipate that this will become a thing where major record labels are signing AI talent, or talent that heavily uses AI? And how do you feel about that? Do you think that that's right?
I think lots of things when he said that. I feel like a lot of major labels are signing music that sounds AI generated to me anyway. It's just like, oh, that just sounds like that last thing, and that last thing, nothing's changed. So it doesn't surprise me at all that would happen. And wherever there's money, obviously they'll go if they think they can make money out of this artist. I think right now it's exciting. It's like it's such a nascent space, exciting kind of beginnings where it still sounds a bit AI, and it's like you're not quite sure, and that will soon disappear where you absolutely can't tell. I actually love these early beginnings where the voices just sound like they're kind of jumping around, or the performance of the voice isn't quite right, and the diction, the way they say things, and the accents is all funny. I really like that. I'm kind of going to miss that when AI and humans create music that we never could have expected. That just like really we just wouldn't have gone there, because you couldn't really imagine mashing that thing with that thing, because it would have taken so long to do it with a band, with a thing. I don't know. That we'll just be able to iterate and hear things differently, and it will really just like make us hyper creative. So I'm excited for the music that's going to come, and the people that are going to mash and hack these systems together to create like kind of weird sculptures with small heads but music, because why not? Like we're not really pushing the boat out a lot, and I really think we need to. And I think we'll go through this boring phase of people just mimicking what we do, and then once we got over that, we'll create music that's like really astounding and exciting, but it will be a complete cross between us.
What you just said earlier really reminded me of a quote from Brian Eno, who I'm gonna butcher it. I don't know it off the top of my head, but he talked about how after a technology gets really good, people start to have a fondness for like whatever the quality of it that everyone criticized when it first came out. I mean, early photography and film did not look good. There was a grain on it. It didn't look totally real to life, but after a while, now we're adding film grain onto things to make it like kind of emulate that style. I think it'll be interesting to see what people think of like looking back on, I guess, like 2021 AI generated images where like the hands are all messed up and they have different fingers that are not right. But yeah, it'll be fascinating. But I wanted to go back to something that you've referenced before. You said that even 15 years ago, you were working with AI to try to create an algorithm that mimicked the way that your creative process worked. And
Actually, I was
now
using a human to do it.
using a human to do it. Okay, yeah.
But it was the beginnings of this generative idea that you can extend yourself beyond just your human capacity,
Yes.
that you can create a code that will emulate you and beyond.
Yes. And so now, you've recently released a 13-minute song called I Am, which also has a beautiful visual that goes along with it. And in that song, it's not just you singing, it's also AI Mojin, which is your essentially digital self or your AI self. So can you tell me about what AI Mojin is and why you think that that is an interesting creative interplay to essentially collaborate with yourself?
Well, I don't think the way that I've used AI Mojin in this song is particularly creative. It's kind of a very long-winded, kind of silly way around of doing things. But I did it as a statement, and I did it to rile people up, I suppose, and just be able to have this conversation. Because the song in the beginning, it takes you through this journey really of what I've experienced over the last 4 years. I recognized, I was starting to think about, who am I? What am I? What, this ego, what is it? What's stressing me out? Like, what is it when you get rid of all of that just in breath or in silence or in the noise? What's there? And then I started to think about AI, because what is that AI isn't? What can I feel that is something that an AI can't feel? And I kind of got down to these bits, these tiny bits. And so the noise section in that song is like the annihilation of my ego. I'm not saying I haven't got an ego. So then I needed aftercare after that. I love this idea that AI is our child. AI is something that we are raising together, as the mother and father, as the adults, raising this child. And what a mess we're doing of that. Um, and right at the end, there's the AI voice of Mojin. I wanted it to be an AI voice, even though I had to sing everything. And so I sang all the parts, and then I put it through my AI model so that it's the model of my voice that's then singing the words rather than my actual voice that I sang. But the melody of it and all the, inflections and all of that is me. But the sound of it's like changing the sound on a keyboard.
Yeah, so it's like putting a filter on top of it in a way. So you still had to do the act of singing.
Yeah, I had to do singing, but it's like changing out a sound for another sound. So it could have been a trumpet. And I wanted to trick people, into going, after all of this music, after all of this quite traumatic noise section, that they would feel something. And that voice would not be my voice, it would be AI Mojin's voice. I wanted to create the discussion. I wanted to, show people that we already don't know. But does it matter? I say in the title it's AI Mojin. But it was all ethically sourced. It was all done in the best way possible, and it's my own voice. And I didn't generate any music. Of course, everybody has already. Some people have already cancelled me for even talking or saying that AI is in my music. So many of them are, I can't believe, Imogen, I'm never listening to your music again. You used AI to generate this song. I was like, no, I did not. I wish that I could have done it, because it took me 4 years to do it with thousands of hours. Anyway, so my point is that everybody is fearful of it, but we can still feel, and what is art? Art is something to someone but not to somebody else. But if essentially it speaks to you and it makes you feel something, does it matter? If it makes you recognize something in yourself, essentially all AI is generated from human work. So, and I think that what we'll end up with over time is the AI models that we do rely and live with will teach us that we don't need anything else. We don't need this capitalist, horrible world that we have got to the extreme of. We just need each other, to be kind to each other, for community, to care about, we don't need happiness out there. It's not something we can buy, a Porsche. It's not going to make us happy. So the voice right at the end of the song is actually my daughter's voice. And she has the last word. And that is to say that, A.M. Mojin, Scout, AI, they're our children, and we need to take care of them, and we need to do a good job of showing them how to do things the way that we would like them to be done, not how we're currently doing a lot of things.
That's so fascinating. I mean, I love that you've been able to make this model with AI Mojin that is totally within your control. So you can do with it what you like. I think the thing that gets scary is when, anyone can manipulate or find anyone's voice model online or train a voice model based on interviews that people have done in the past and just run with it. I'm wondering, in an age of AI, I wonder how artists will continue to self-curate. I think such an important part of being an artist is having the taste and the curation to know what you want to say, what songs you want to put out, what songs you want to keep for yourself, what interviews you want to do, what things you don't want to do. In an age of AI, it feels like you're losing a lot of control over yourself. Do you have fears around that?
I mean, we already have lost control. People misquote us constantly, say that we've written something when we haven't, don't credit us when we have been a part of it. That's still very much there. So I do actually think this is going to really, it's going to force us into creating something that will make sense of what we have already for the future, so that we can put a flag in the sand as humans and go, okay, up to this point, it was human generated, and then there was like this blurry space, and then we figured it out, and now you can really discover what is what. I'm excited because I have used, other people have also used my voice. There's an artist called Beretta who's created a great dance track with it, and there is an artist called Lucy Hayes who's done a really amazing song with it too. And you can go to I have a profile on the DSPs as ai.mojin, and you can see the songs that her voice has sung on, including my voice, including my song. But the nice thing about that is, as you say, you have control. Again, I think it just comes down to this like core missing piece that we don't have, which is an ID layer, like identifying a home for each individual, that I think we'll just have in time anyway, just as much as there's one physical version of you in the world, even though we'd like there to be more of us. And there's one of me, but there's no digital one version of me somewhere that I own, that anyone in the world can go to find de facto information about me, up to the minute if they need to, so that I can express whatever I want to express in like a kind of umbilical cord to anything that I might be connected to in one instant from one place. I want to be able to do that.
I'm wondering, how are you seeing some of your peers use AI in their musical process that inspire you? Is there anything interesting you've seen recently?
I'm not seeing any of my peers doing any music with AI. Maybe I've got, I don't know, I just feel like all my friends, they're just like, we just make music the way we always made music. I'm really interested in developing Mojin to the point where I can jam on stage with her, where she can train off my music and she can continue, like, say because I really do want to do this, like I don't want to slave away in front of the computer and make tracks like I Am for the rest of my life. I don't want to do that. Like, I really don't want to do that. I would love to find ways to speed up the process but not take away any of the creativity. And there are many things you do in the studio or to prepare plugins or that you can clean up, and you can help, AI could help you do some of that admin or help you identify things that could be similar sounding that you could pull in without having to go through all the presets. I mean, there are already things that do that. I mean, Splice, I'm pretty sure, has started to do that. I'd say that very few artists, I mean, I know that, is it Timbaland that's like a lot on Suno?
Yes. Yeah.
And he's like very, advocating. And I understand it. It's fun. It's like, it's super fun, and it is hard not to go there. I had a play, I have had a play, and I was like, whoa, hold on a minute, that's actually really cool. Like I actually might use that, but you have to stop yourself, because I do want to create standards that allow for musicians to be recognized for the work that they've done, that these streaming service, these AI models have learnt from and hoovered up, but are not in any way caring at the moment, seemingly, about how to solve that problem. And I really want to spend my time helping to solve that problem, helping to contribute to, attribution for musicians of the past and the now, so that they see themselves in these feature models if they want to, and if they don't, fine.
One of the things that I've heard from AI companies before is that they foresee a time when pretty much everyone makes music. One person even said to me once, that, back in the day, we could have never foreseen that people would go from, if you wanted to get your family photographed, you'd have to go to a photographer who's a professional and had the camera, sit down with them at a special place. But now we just take photos on our iPhone. And this person was saying that they foresee a time when everyone just gets to make music. It's not something reserved for musicians anymore, I guess.
Great. What's wrong with that?
Yeah. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on like the barrier to entry lowering so that everyone could feasibly do it.
Why not? So if you've spent many, like 10,000 hours, whatever, perfecting your craft, you'll always have an edge. If you generate anything off these, services right now, you're just going to sound like 99.9999% of other things that do that too. But if you have an edge, if you have a real something there that connects with people and you use it differently and you go a little bit further out of your way and you create something that's genuinely astoundingly good, then that's great. That's really good. That helps everyone move forward. I don't have a problem with that at all. Like you said, everyone takes photographs, everyone's a photographer, we can all put filters on it and clean it up. The other thing is like, why should music just be reserved for those who, have had access to like computers and programming and lessons if you need it and, all the time and whatever money, I don't know. But I mean, because initially we all used to sing, but we sang before we spoke. We had songs that we would sing and we would dance and we could move our bodies and we felt that was just the way we expressed ourselves. And now we're just scared to sing. So I think this is great, if it helps us connect with our creative inner selves and allows us to feel more at peace with ourselves because there's something that's, really connecting because it feels great to make music. Then I am definitely for it, 100%. I've got no issues with it. If anything, it's just what needs to happen, which will happen in tandem with it, is much better discovery tools to help people see through and hear through the noise, because it is ever so much harder to find the good stuff out there, as there are many, many, many issues. Well, you don't really know if you're listening to AI generative music at the moment on these platforms. I have come across hundreds of generative versions of Headlock and other songs that I've done that are definitely not human or largely not human creators, as they come up quickly. And you look at the profiles and you try and find out, and there's all kind of disappears, and it's all like one label, and nobody really knows. And then you disappear, and it's just like, oh, was it there at all? So there's definitely like weird stuff going on already, and who knows who's benefiting from that? The top level, who knows? So it is just a mess, and I think it's good because it has been a mess forever, and now it's just really showing the problem.
One of the interesting things that I've been thinking about in terms of AI music is it certainly speeds up the process. So we're going to get more music, especially I think we're going to see more music ending up on streaming services. Right now, we already have 100,000 songs being added every day. If we put AI aside and we look at a few years ago when it was still a similar number of just a mass amount of music coming into the services every single day, a lot of that music is from totally DIY artists. I think the revolution of DIY brought forth a ton of music, but for the most part, most people aren't listening to most of it. Some of it's not very well done, and that's okay. They've released it; it's a passion project, whatever. But algorithms allow us to navigate through the 100,000 songs that are there on Spotify every day, and so as AI comes in, I think it'll just accelerate that process. We'll definitely have even more songs, but this is not a new problem. We already have a lot of songs to sort through. So it just has to get smarter and better.
I think what we're going to be able to wrap into it is the story of the song. So right now, the algorithms are like pitch and tempo and timbre and like maybe lyrics or dynamic range or that kind of stuff that it's creating algorithms for us to go, oh, you might like this. But you might want different ways to search. You might discover that you like, a particular producer, and if you're lucky, you might, I don't think you can search via producer at the moment on streaming services, but you can search obviously through artists, but you've just about started to be able to search through composer, but you still have to be registered in a certain way. Not everyone's allowed to be a songwriter composer. I'm just allowed to be one, even after how many 30 years I've been doing it. So it's not even at the basic stuff isn't sorted. You can't search through drummer or mixing engineer, but you might discover, if you could, that you actually the reason why you love these songs is because of the arranger, or it's because of the particular way somebody plays a stringed instrument that kind of inspires the rest of the song for someone.
Yeah, yeah. And to kind of pivot the conversation a little bit, you just recently celebrated the 20th anniversary of Speak for Yourself, which is very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's really crazy how many times these songs keep coming back up. I really enjoyed Normal People, and the sync placement that a Hide and Seek had in there a couple of years ago. I've been on TikTok and I keep finding your work there as well. I'm wondering, why do you think this has continued to find new audiences organically over time?
I don't know. Maybe there's the nostalgia. Maybe there's something comforting in it. I don't know. I asked myself the same question. I feel very lucky. I think, I don't know, maybe it's just a generation of people that 20 years ago, were just starting out. They were students or whatever. And at that point, for them, it meant something because they heard it in the OC or whatever, however they discovered it. And people like Ariana Grande, they discovered it then, and Taylor, they all kind of discovered it then. And now 20 years later, they're massively famous pop stars, and they're just killing it all around the world. And they're introducing people as well. And the people that were watching those programs back then, they're in cool jobs and doing different things. And, so they chuck it in because it means something to them. And I'm finding that not just in the music space, in the fan space, but in a much smaller way. I also see it in the industry side. I see the people that were my peers when I was younger in the industry. We're also coming together going, do you know what? We're doing things differently now. And I'm finding it much easier to navigate and to help shape the future of this industry, because it's a different year. Groups coming through, basically the old guard are going out, and we are able to come together. I'm like nearly 50 now. I'm 47. And it just feels like it's easier, and then it'll feel easier again for the next generation, hopefully, as they learn from our mistakes and see that there's no point to be rigid and there's no point to be possessive over things. Nothing fun comes from that, just more pain.
Yeah, yeah. Earlier you were touching on like the music industry and things turning over. And one of the things I find really interesting about Speak for Yourself is that it was first released, I didn't realize this until very recently, that it was released independently, which was probably not a very easy thing to do back then. It's now become so much more popular to be an independent artist and to find success that way. I'm wondering, looking back on it, how do you think it compares being an independent artist now versus when you released that album 20 years ago?
I feel like I was in a sweet spot because it was just as the industry was going digital and streaming, and there was iTunes had come out just literally a month or two before Speak for Yourself happened. And there was only one front window. Now there's like 50 revolving windows and God knows. And I got lucky, and my album got chosen to be the album of the week on iTunes.
Wow.
And I was like, how did this happen? I'm a nobody. I'm like, I just couldn't believe it that I thought you'd have to pay for that spot, but I did release the record myself. It was independent, and I ingested it myself. I still have an account with Apple, even though I shouldn't, because I was one of the first. And so I sent a message to iTunes, like info@iTunes or whatever, and I was like, "Hello, just a message to say thank you to whoever put my album on the front page." I think it was maybe the UK iTunes, and I was like, "Thank you so much. You don't know how much this means to me." And I got a message back from this guy, called Denzel Fiegelson. And he was the boss at the time. And he was like, "Do you know what? No one's ever thanked us. Would you like to come into the offices?" And I was like, "Yes, I will." So I went into the offices. I met Pete Downton, who was like one of the first digital streaming, gave the music to digital streaming companies like Spotify before they had their own way to do that. And I went to I was the first artist in the office. So I have this, I was at a lucky point where there wasn't that much going on. You were either with a label or you weren't.
And I reached this point where people were like, wow, an actual artist is coming into the office. This is weird. It's not a music executive. And it really worked in my favor. And it was much less scary to do independent than to go again with a major label. It just tore me apart every time. They just made a terrible job of not promoting it, or promoting it a good job of not promoting it.
Yeah, because Frou was on a major label, right? And that's then you were dropped after that and you went independent.
My first album was called iMegaphone. My second album was Frou with Guy. And then Frou, they decided they didn't want to make another Frou record. And I was like, fun. They're like, but we'd like to make an Imogen Heap record. And I was like, no, thank you. You couldn't have made a bigger mess of such a great record. Like, we absolutely thought The Details was one of the best things ever.
It was so good.
And now just so many other people think that. But at the time they were like, no, didn't get onto Radio 1. It's not going to be as big as Sugar Babes. And they didn't like give us any airtime at all, or any support. And they've made us try and come up with some hits and put on the record. And it was just so
oh my gosh.
So in the end I was like, can you please just let me go? Because I just can't. I just don't want to do this. I don't want to do it. And I think they thought, fine, off you go then. And I just said, I'll give you first refusal, which I didn't, but they didn't care anyway. They were just probably happy to get rid of me. And then it was just so much easier. I basically remortgaged my flat. I took $100,000 out because it had grown in value over, it's this small flat in Waterloo, over a year. And it was the only way I could get any money. I did try the banks, but they didn't want to give me money. So I remortgaged my flat, and then I bought all the studio equipment, and I did it for a year. And then I could have gone with a major label then, but I was like, I'm going to do it myself. Like, I'm going to bring all the people that I've met from all the labels and all the times, and I'm going to bring in my best crew, and we're going to do it together. I'm going to pay them, and I'm still going to earn way more than I would have ever done if I'd signed to a record label. And I only just, Frou was released 25 years ago, I think. And I've only just seen royalties from that album.
Wow.
Only just. We've only just recouped. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. Wow. That is hard to believe. I mean, also that Frou record is incredible. And to think that it wasn't enough at the time for this label is hard to believe. It's one that I really enjoy listening to this day. And I know a lot of other people keep finding it again. I mean, the streaming numbers are crazy. I think it's always interesting to look at a streaming service and an album that was released before streaming and see how it does, because some of them just don't fare that well, and that's okay. But to have an album that is still being streamed that much from 25 years ago or so is really remarkable. But it's amazing now. In 2025, how many artists are waiting to sign longer? They're getting better deals because they have the ability to be independent. I'm curious, like, if you think you were coming up now, do you think you would have also still chosen that independent path?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I really don't sign a major label deal. Like, basically everyone who signs a major label deal, after about a year, they're like, how do I get out of this deal? How long have I got? How many more albums do I have to do before I can get out of this deal? Every artist knows that it's a stepping stone to becoming independent. It's not the place to end up. It's just, you've got to make the best deal that you possibly can. They're always going to give you the worst deal, even if you think it might be good because of the way they worded it. And also, you don't know what they're doing, especially in terms of AI training, giving over licenses to what we don't know what they're doing. We don't know. It wasn't in our, I mean, I'm not signed to Sony anymore, thank goodness, but they, at the time, I was actually like 2 years ago when they still had licenses of my stuff. I was writing letters. I was like, do not in any event give my music to AI companies. Do not do this. Otherwise I'll take you to court. And I think I might message that somewhere on an open letter. I can't remember. I didn't really get any replies at all. It was very suspiciously quiet. But I did hear that backroom deals were being done at major labels with AI companies, and that they were doing discussions. And I don't know what they've done, but I'm glad to not be in it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's very interesting about record contracts is you sign it, and so they usually have some sort of a clause that leaves the door open for technology in the future that can't be foreseen at this moment, which I understand why they do it, but it does leave
Yeah.
instances like this. I mean, who could have
100%.
foreseen generative AI in this form? And that's something that I think about a lot with legacy artists or artists who are deceased. I've reported on some estates offering the voice rights of a person who's been passed away for like 10, 20 years to AI companies. And I always wonder, like, if they could have even foreseen that generative AI would be a thing, how would they feel about this use? And unfortunately, we'll never know. But yeah.
Well, I think, it's tricky, isn't it? I guess they're dead, they don't care. But
Yeah.
if it's the family, then they'd probably just be like, yeah, sure, of course, I'm dead. Do what you like.
Yeah.
That would be my stance.
One more thing I wanted to ask you before we start wrapping it up. I wanted to ask you about the gloves, the Mi.Mu gloves. I absolutely love those. They're something that Ariana Grande has used on stage quite a lot. They're really wonderful to see in everyone's different hands, I guess. Are you still iterating on that and improving it, or do you feel like the product is done as is?
No, we're still iterating. We have a batch that's going to be delivered hopefully before the end of the year to like a few hundred people. We haven't yet managed to get them on the shelf. They're not, they're very, very good quality, the best in the world for creating music. And they're expensive. They're like $2,500 a pair. So, it's like buying a computer, but they're expensive because they're basically like tiny team. We're doing our best to make them, as best we can, as cheaply as we can, but we're not like a mass, we're not making millions of these things. So it is still expensive. And a lot of people, that's obviously a big barrier. And it's a leap to go to, make music gesturally, even though it feels totally natural when you do it. So we are missing out on the people who the impulse buys because it's like, oh, I want to do that. I'm going to buy that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they hit buy and then they're going to get it next day and then they're going to love it. But then it's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not going to get it 3 months or maybe 6 months because it takes them that. And then they don't buy it. Yeah, our problem really is that we need to have enough capital in advance to buy them, to get them on the shelf. And then I think we'll see a lot more people buying them because you can't get credit for something if it doesn't exist. So once we can create a way where they're on the shelf, then people can pay over time, over a couple of years or whatever. It's much more easy to stomach. But we're a tiny company. We haven't taken investment other than like friends and other musicians, tiny bits, because we just want to do it our way, So we're hopeful that we can find a way to get it on the shelf, because I do think we haven't seen the end of it yet, really. Even though it's been really hard, and we did have a big chat the other day. But there's nothing else like them. I know you can do it with the computer. You've seen videos of people using touch design or whatever and just kind of, using the IR, the camera and creating gestures and doing it in front of your computer. We know you can do that. You can do that with us too, with the clever software. But there's nothing like being away from the computer, being in the garden and making music with the trees. I've got a wireless microphone. I've got my in-ear headset. And I'm just out in the garden making music with whatever I want to make it with. Or I can go into the studio, or I can go by the piano or on stage. And it's just that freedom of being able to conjure music in real time, in real whatever space, and not be in front of the camera.
This has been such an interesting discussion. I'm going to end it off with some quick, like, rapid fire questions, and then we'll do our playlist.
I might not get rapid fire answers, but I'll do my best.
Okay. Just a couple words per answer, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Not myself. Yeah.
Who is an artist that you view as an innovator?
Team Exile.
Okay. A song from Speak for Yourself that you look back on with great pride?
Hide and seek.
Yeah. The coolest way that someone has paid homage to your work?
I don't know. I really liked hearing like kazoo version of Hide and Seek.
I love that.
I don't know. No, Ariana Grande. When she did Good Night and Go. And she I love it. I love that she did that. And I went on tour and I did my version of her version of my song. And no, I really like the way she did that. She's so generous. She really just has continuously shared the love and always supported me. And she's just like enormous. And she just has such integrity, all the things she's been through. I think she's so talented. I I know we are going to actually do something together one day. One day. We both said it. It's just, we got to find the right thing at the right time so that we can really enjoy it. And it's not just something like, but it's got to be, but at the same time, it's like, you don't want to build it up so much and then we never do it because it's like, it's going to be the perfect time. But no, I really, really want to work with Ariana. I think she's fucking great.
Yeah, she is. What's the best film TV use of your song Hide and Seek?
I mean, obviously the OC, because that was the first one. But I think the most intriguing one was the Saturday Night Live skit, because they didn't ask permission. They just did it, and quite a lot of people had seen the OC, but way more people saw that skit, and then didn't even know where it came. Did know where it came from, I suppose, but didn't know about the song. It was like too many steps removed at that point. And this was one. It ended up being one of the first memes on the internet of people just doing what to say, and just all different like Simpsons version, all different versions of it. And I don't think it was an official Simpsons version, but people just edit stuff up. And it was amazing. It was amazing to see, but that was before monetization, sadly, on YouTube. So there were like billions and billions of bits of this song, but I think it like goes under the radar of monetization because it's not quite 30 seconds, but otherwise I'd be like a total millionaire. Yeah.
That really is too bad that it was just a little early on the YouTube thing, but I think that song still has a lot of legs online. There are still people using it all the time. Who is an artist who counts? Well, actually, you kind of answered this. It would be Ariana.
What? Let me ask me the question again.
An artist who counts you as an inspiration that you enjoy listening to yourself.
Well, yeah, Ariana. I don't know. I mean, I really heard this person's music recently called Data Cluster. And he was like totally excited. So, and I really like his music. Well, I discover lots of people that I'm like, wow, I love this person's music. And then I think like, there's no way they're going to know me because I'm just not cool enough. And then like, no, I really actually like that. I'm like their guilty pleasure, which I find a little bit like, how can I be a guilty pleasure? I'm not cool enough. But I'm very lucky. I seem to find fans in all kinds of like unexpected places, in like, extreme heavy metal rock bands or noise artists or hip hop or cloud rap or, just like, it's mad how cross genre the music gets. I really love that. I feel so lucky really to have, know people from all over and just feel like it's a possibility really, hopefully, to work with anyone. If I really wanted to, maybe I couldn't, I don't know. But there's so many people I want to work with. I don't want to sit in front of the computer and write music in the way that I have done over the last 30 years, just like solitary mixing and just moving bits of audio around. I have to find another way. And I know there obviously are other ways, like you could do modular, you can work with a band. But I've just become a slave of my own technique, really. And that's why I really want to develop the live system with the Mi.Mu gloves, with generative AI of Mojin, but under an acceptable level of AI generative work, so that I can conjure lyrics in real time with my own brain in real time, but also maybe with the temperature or how many people in the room changes the way that the melody moves around, or that how fast the chords move depending on how close they are to me. Or I want to create music in real time in a very different way than I ever have, and that's really what I'll spend my time on.
Exciting. Well, okay, so the final thing of our interview is the playlist part. So we always ask everyone on the record to help make me a playlist. What is a song you can no longer gatekeep? We'll just start there. What's a song that you're loving right now that you want more people to know about?
I really do love this album by Blauen called Sick Elixir. Sick Elixir. I nearly had a car crash because I was driving and I've been waiting to hear it in the car so I could hear it, not just on like my headphones or wherever. I wanted to hear it like loud. And so I played it, and I had a car journey enough time. And I just couldn't believe how good it was. I was swearing. I was like, if somebody looked in the car, they would be like, what the hell is that woman doing? I was like going, oh my effing God, this is effing amazing. I was just like, I couldn't believe how good it was. I was just laughing. I was like being possessed. So the whole album is absolutely amazing. But if I can't really choose one because I liked all of them. But I don't know. There's one called ... Nos.
What is a favorite throwback of yours? So a song over 10 years old.
when I was like 17 in Camden, when I was, starting out, there was this band called Acacia. And one half of it was Guy Sigsworth, who obviously we turned into being Frou. But the album that they made, Acacia, is so good. And I think that one of the tracks that I love the most was called Maddening Shroud. So I'd check that out. It's from the 90s, so long ago.
I'll have to check that one out. And last but not least, what is a guilty pleasure for you?
Well, it feels a bit weird to say it because it's not really like a guilty pleasure, but it kind of is. And I talked about this person earlier. This artist called Data Cluster, and I found them on on this random playlist. And I was a little bit thinking that they might have been AI generative between some artists that I love. So the guilty feeling is like, but I love Max Cooper and I love John Hopkins, and they're like I know them. And there's such echoes of their music in this that I feel slightly uncomfortable about because it is so to the T. But the melodies, and it's not their music at all. It's just Data Cluster. Absolutely idolizes these artists and has studied them meticulously to the point where he just knows how to get those sounds. I just would not have the patience to do that. I'm just like, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to make it sound like this. So I guess my guilty pleasure in a way is that, because I would like to talk to John and Max and see how they feel. Maybe they're like, no, it doesn't sound anything like me. Why would you think that sounds like me? I'm like, oh, sorry. Huh. So the one that I found on this playlist, I'm going to try and find the name of it, Circa 13. It's had under 1,000 plays on Spotify. And he's got 899 monthly listeners.
Wow.
But I was like, this is just great. And I really liked it. And I was listening to it a lot. And I got in touch with him. I think he lives in LA. Might meet up with him when I go to NAMM in January. But yeah, Data Cluster, and the track that I heard was called Circa 13. But it comes off his debut album, I believe, which is called Coalescence.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check it out.
It's really nice.
Well, thank you so much, Imogen Heap, for coming to the show. This has been so much fun. I love talking AI with you, and you'll have to come back soon. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right, another big thank you to Imogen Heap for coming on the show today and sharing her insights with us. It's really good to get a pulse on how an artist is feeling about AI right now, especially one who is still very hopeful about the future. Up next, we're going to be diving into our charts roundup, where we'll highlight this week's biggest movers and shakers. Here is the top 10 of the Hot 100 chart for the week of November 22nd. Rising to number 10 this week is Back to Friends by Somber. Number 9 is I Got Better by Morgan Wallen. Number 8 is Folded by Kehlani. Number 7 this week is Mutt by Leon Thomas. 6 this week is Daisies by Justin Bieber. Opalite by Taylor Swift comes in at number 5. Man I Need by Olivia Dean rises to number 4. Number 3 again this week is Ordinary by Alex Warren. Golden by Huntrix comes in at number 2 again this week. And finally, the number 1 song on the Billboard Hot 100 chart for the week of November 22nd, for its 6th week at number 1, is The Fate of Ophelia by Taylor Swift. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of On the Record, and another special thank you to my guest, Imogen Heap, for coming on the show. And if you liked today's show, please consider hitting us with a rating, a follow, a thumbs up. All those things really help a show like ours to grow and to reach new people. Again, I'm your host, Kristin Robinson, and tune in next week for another peek behind the curtain of the music business. I'll see you then.